touch the Rice Street Jail facility before returning back here to the airport. With previous indictments, we have seen the former president give remarks, so we will be standing by to see if he makes any similar remarks following the booking process here in Metro Atlanta, and we'll bring you those as we get them as well.
And we're about 13 miles from the airport and only about a mile from the jail. I want to step aside so you can see what kind of traffic we're seeing here at the intersection of Joseph E. Lowry and Donald Lee Hollowell. Now, this is typical backup for this area, but what was happening about an hour ago, if you can take a look at this video if we have it, police officers and law enforcement from all different agencies came through and started blocking off streets all along Joseph E. Lowry, giving it a clear shot down Joseph E. Lowry to the jail. Now, we can only assume that this was some kind of practice run or Secret Service sweep, as the former president, has not arrived yet. Now, as we don't know the exact route that the former president will take, a law enforcement officer who's worked presidential visits before says Mr. Trump would likely take one of the quickest routes. We know this is one of the two quickest routes. We will keep you guys updated as we keep on watch out over here. Back to you guys.
We want to welcome all of our viewers to our special coverage of former President Trump expecting to. And we want to welcome all of our viewers into our special coverage of a historic night. We are waiting for former President Donald Trump to surrender at the Fulton County Jail.
And we have team coverage for you tonight in all quadrants of the city. All aspects of the story we are covering for you tonight. We are glad to have you here on 11 Alive as you take a look at President Trump's plane, former President Trump, his plane landing at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport minutes ago. And we will now see what transpires in terms of the security that Jennifer Bellamy has been showing us over the course of the last few minutes, with a lot of black SUVs, as well as about a dozen motorcycles as well. So this will now get ready to stop, and then former President Trump will be taken to Rice Street and the Fulton County Jail. Let's go right now to Jennifer Bellamy, who is at Hartsfield-Jackson.
So we're going to take you right to the president's plane that has just touched down in the last few moments here. You can see it is obviously the former president's plane. It says Trump on the very front, close to the nose, with the American flag back there on the tail. This plane just coming in, and we are watching it taxi down this runway as it will head into the Signature Air tarmac area right here that we have been showing you all evening long as we anticipate the former president to deplane and then make his way to the Fulton County Jail. As we have been watching this area for you this evening, we have seen various law enforcement agencies. We've seen Georgia State Patrol and Atlanta Police, along with emergency vehicles from the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta Airport here on the scene. We know that these vehicles have been lined up right now, waiting for the former president to arrive and then escort him to the Fulton County Jail. Another thing, I know you're watching the airplane right now, but another thing that we're seeing is the road being blocked by Atlanta police vehicles. Vehicles will not be able to come closer to Signature Air any longer now that we have this plane having touched down. We've also seen K9 units that have been out here before. They were going through and looking around different vehicles that were in the parking lot. And I know Jeff mentioned just a short time ago the fact that there were several motorcycles, we believe, with Atlanta police that have been waiting, standing by to be part of that process that will escort the president through. And you can hear the airport sounds and sights right now. You hear another airline landing here, because we have been told that there should be no impacts to anyone else who is flying out of or returning into Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Again, the former president is landing here at Signature, which is a separate area from the terminals that most people take when they come to the airport. So again, we are seeing this plane come in to the signature area right now, and we will continue to watch as it comes in. We see there's also a staircase that is standing by, likely to bring the president down to the tarmac, or the former president down to the tarmac as he prepares to enter this motorcade. Now, the president touched down maybe about 3 minutes ago from after leaving Newark, New Jersey. So maybe about a 2-hour flight that we saw to get him down here for this process for booking. Mr. Trump and his 18 other co-defendants have been given a deadline of noon on Friday to surrender voluntarily. And so that is part of why we are seeing the former president coming down here to Atlanta right now on these 13 charges he has been indicted for here in Fulton County by District Attorney Fani Willis after a very extensive and long investigation. Now, once the president or the former president does deplane and that motorcade begins to take off to head to the Fulton County Jail, it's not exactly clear which route will be taken to take him to the jail. We know he could take I-75, 85 to 20 to Joseph E. Lowry. He could also take I-85, I-75 to North Avenue. That route would have more impact on the downtown connector. We also know there is an Atlanta Falcons game going on that will be kicking off in less than 30 minutes. So a lot of folks will be out in that area as well. So if you know somebody who is about to be out and about anytime soon, if you have any plans, you'll want to make sure that you keep in mind that this is taking place. And we see right now that staircase trucking up to the airline. And Faith and Jeff, I know y'all are watching this along with me. We're going to see how long it actually takes from this the staircase butting up to the plane to actually get him on the road, and then we'll see how quickly he can make it out to the Fulton County Jail and how much time he will spend there during that booking process.
Jennifer, thank you so much for breaking all of that down for us. And if you all are just joining us right now, we're taking a live look at Trump Force One that just touched down in Atlanta moments ago. It took off from Newark, New Jersey, just before 5 o'clock, dealing with a lot of storms there. But now we can see that the plane is here right now. Our Jennifer Bellamy is live at the airport. Jennifer, I do have a question for you. I know many times before, this is now the fourth indictment. I know that the latest one was in D.C. We saw a press pull. We saw a motorcade. Are you seeing any type of movement of that right now? Any sirens or anything like that?
We do see flashing lights, Faith, but that is related to the Atlanta police presence that we are seeing that is blocking the way from vehicles getting any closer to this signature air location. We do see a small number of media outlets that are out here. And what we've been saying all evening is that we don't know right now if the former president will make any remarks either at the point of touchdown or as he makes his way home after the booking process in Fulton County. We will remain out here and we'll bring you any remarks he makes if he chooses to make any.
You know, that's a
But
good
right now,
point,
what we've been
Casey.
seeing is
As I'm
related
watching
to
this,
some media
what's
outlets
up, everybody?
and law enforcement as they are
Fair
working
use.
to kind of
I'm thinking to myself,
area
this is not the
contained
president,
and not
right?
allow any outsiders
This
into
this
facility.
is the
So here we
a
are, Jennifer.
campaign
It is
front
a little
runner,
after 7
and he
o'clock, about 10
looking
minutes
he
after.
looking better than the
Atlanta
president.
traffic is still
We see
very,
President
very
show up
strong,
to Maui
and
the other day.
traditionally
It's
Thursday
funny
is
you
the
say
biggest
that,
day of the week
KP from
in terms of
KC5.
afternoon traffic. So
As
we're a
I
long
seen the
way away
plane
from
come
this
in, I'm
dissipating.
like, I
I
hope
think it's
people
interesting
get
that
this
you
is
would bring
not
up a
Air
couple of
Force
routes.
One,
And I was trying to figure that
and
out
all
as
of the
well. If we would go
regalia,
North Avenue
everything
or
surrounding
Joseph
it, the
Lowry.
football game,
And I think it will
everything,
not be
nothing
North
is
Avenue. I think it would be
coincidental.
too
He wants the
disruptive having a
whole
Falcons
city to
game
stop.
in downtown Atlanta.
He
My
wants the
guess
whole city
would
to
be that
stop.
we're
He
going to
wants
see
to
that route. And
everybody
if
in
that's
the
true,
world
because
to
traffic,
take note. Yeah,
20 to 30
football
minutes.
game, you
Wouldn't
might
you
have to
guess that would
pause the
probably
kickoff
be the amount of
because
time
the
between
president is
where
here.
he is getting
The
off
the
of
champ
this,
is here.
this
The
staircase right now
champ is
in
here.
Fulton Jail?
You might have to pause the kickoff, huh? Shit, you might. I don't care
Yeah,
what
I would
highway
agree
he
with that,
take.
Jeff,
He
especially
can
if there
take
are
this
rolling
highway. He can
roadblocks.
take
And
that.
we have
He
seen
can take a helicopter.
the standby motorcade make
It
its
don't
way
matter.
to the
This
plane
is
from
all
elevated point.
planned,
That's happening on
purposeful.
the
Y'all
opposite
know he could have
side of
turned
where we are,
himself
so
in
we cannot
on
see
Friday. He purposely
exactly
doing it
when
today,
the
so he
president will
knows
come
about the
downstairs. And
football
again, that's
game.
on the
He
opposite
knows
side of
about
where
it's
we
5 o'clock
are right now.
traffic.
But we have seen the motorcade take position
This is
to move
all planned.
closer
Hey,
to the
KP.
airplane. And
Guess
so
what
we
else?
do
Everybody
anticipate
at
then
the
that the
jail
former
gotta
president
stay
will be
late.
stepping out very shortly.
Everybody at the jail got to stay late, huh? This is all planned.
Interesting is to see
You think they could have took off this morning? I'm old. I get up at old people get up early. We can't sleep. Our bones and our backs and our muscles be hurting and aching and bruising. You got to get up and start moving. So he been up all day. Why they leave late?
There will be security measures taking place. Or
KP said, when brothers say pull up on me, you pull up in your own shit.
We know that they will be allowing other things to take place as the former president is in there. We do see some action. We see more folks walking around out there on the tarmac out there. So we are waiting to see when those cars will begin moving to get the former president to the Fulton County Jail to begin that booking process.
Fact that is going to be interesting to follow tonight is what his tact will be in Atlanta. And I'm saying above and beyond getting fingerprinted and your mug shot and posting bail, all of that. You know, we saw earlier this afternoon on Twitter, now X, where he came out, you know, full blazing at District Attorney Fani Willis about Atlanta is a murder capital. You can't go out and buy a loaf of bread without fearing for your life. It seemingly set the stage for what he will be in the midst of tonight, that he is going to be on the offensive in terms of these charges, which he has said from the very beginning he believes to be bogus.
Yes, Jeff, I do agree with that. If he does make any comments tonight, they will likely be along that same vein. We do know that the former president also went on his own platform, True Social, earlier today to say that he would be arrested at 7:30. We know he's likely probably a little behind on that anticipated time. Again, we have been following this, and y'all have been mentioning the weather conditions that were occurring in New Jersey as we were waiting for the former president to depart on his way down here. So it does seem as if he's made up for some time after a late departure. But again, we will be anticipating that he will likely be booked between the 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock hour when we finally see him leave the airport here and begin to make his way down to the Rice Street facility in Fulton County.
And we did have some big developments in his counsel. Actually, this morning we found out that he dropped one of his attorneys, Drew Findling, and is now having Stephen Sadow represent him. And Sadow confirmed that he will be traveling with the former president to the Fulton County Jail. And we see Donald Trump getting off of the plane right now. Jennifer, you could take it from here. He's walking down the steps.
You got Trump. Look at Trump moving. Oh, man, he killing Biden already. He killing Biden already. Oh, man, he came down like he was Barack Obama with a pep in the step. Oh, look how fast he moving. Biden ain't moved that fast in 10 years. He already off the plane. He off the plane in the car. He off the plane in the car, ladies and gentlemen. Tweet it out, man. Biden hasn't moved that fast in 10 years, ladies and gentlemen. The man is off the jet in the plane. We on the way. Public Time Podcast with the Blast 5.0, 5.0. Share the show. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, off the jet, in the plane, about to go surrender to Big Fani, Big OG, Big Fani Willis in the building. Let's go.
It looks as if they are heading to these vehicles right now, and this will likely begin that motorcade process. Yes, Faith?
Okay, if you can hear me, I just wanted to give you from our vantage point. So President Trump walked down the steps. He did get into one of those black SUVs, so they should be departing momentarily.
They can't even believe it. They can't even believe he didn't get off the plane and got in the car that fast. She want to check. Jennifer, Jennifer, we got the president coming off the steps. Jennifer, he's in the car. Yeah, it takes Biden about 10 years to get down the steps in the car. Jennifer, what's going on? Jennifer, he's in the car already. He's in the car already.
Atlanta Airport emergency crew vehicle. It's bright neon colors. And then there are also some Atlanta police vehicles that are included as well that we believe will be part of this motorcade. We also mentioned that there's a series of motorcycles. We see law enforcement members standing by on them closer to the entrance of Signature Air. And so we anticipate that once that motorcade does begin to start making its way to the entrance, that those motorcycles will either lead and end this motorcade once it begins its route out to Fulton County Jail.
All right.
And we're seeing that again. That's what you see right there on your screen.
Back to the plane, everybody.
Thank you.
Just in
If you're
case you didn't see
joining
that big
us
truck.
right now,
One more time. Go ahead,
President
Pan.
Trump's
This is what he
plan,
said the
plane
first time.
landed at Jackson about
Y'all
5
need me.
minutes
You
after
need
7
me.
o'clock.
You need this. What he said the first campaign. You need me. Show that truck one more time, y'all. Did he ask him to pay him back? Did he ask him?
Gave a thumbs up to those who were cheering him on, and now we are seeing the result of all of this. Tracy E. McPeer is live right now at Hartsfield Jackson. She has an excellent vantage point as she has seen this motorcade make its way toward Rice Street in downtown Atlanta. Tracy?
That's right. I'm actually going to step out of the way right now so you can see the motorcade as it leaves here from Atlanta Hartsfield. You can see plenty of police presence in front, and former President Donald Trump is presumably in one of these vehicles right here behind. We're watching him landed about 14 minutes ago, deplaned, and now is in this motorcade headed to the Fulton County Jail. Of course, the jail is about 14 miles away from here, so typically that takes about 30 minutes. Of course, with the roads being closed off, that time could be different. Take a look. We know that President Donald Trump is in one of these vehicles leaving. Of course, they have plenty of security in front and behind all afternoon. There's been Atlanta police here, Secret Service, Georgia State Police, all waiting in anticipation of the plane landing. Of course, it did land. It is now headed right now to the Fulton County Jail. Of course, we have crews here. We also have crews there at the jail and crews along the way. We'll bring you the very latest as it comes. We're actually going to jump in and try to follow the motorcade right now. So we're sending it back to you in the studio.
All right, Tracy, thank you so much. So as you all just saw right there, former President Donald Trump, his plane landed just after 7 o'clock. He walked down the stairs. He did not say anything, got into one of the black SUVs. The motorcade took off, and now he is on his way to the Fulton County Jail, as our Tracy A. McPeer was reporting. It'll probably take them about 30 minutes. And I imagine with the police escort, they might be able to get out of, you guys know how bad the Atlanta traffic is.
That area particularly around there, it's 7:15 on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
It is very, very
Falcons football
congested.
game.
And you've got a Falcons football game also that's a component in all of this. But you've got a rolling roadblocks, which is a very efficient way to get VIPs through the streets of a major metropolis, where you have law enforcement working up about a mile and a half in advance. They will stop all levels of traffic in all directions so that the individual and the motorcade may pass, and then they let it resume. So that way you don't have that sort of log jam that you did in previous years when you would certainly close off all of these routes indefinitely for a very extended period of time.
And if you're taking a look here wondering what the heck are we looking at right here, this is actually a camera in one of the vehicles following the motorcade. So you're actually going on the route that former President Trump is going on right now through the streets of Atlanta, headed to the Fulton County Jail. And it's going to be interesting to see. So this is the former president's fourth criminal indictment. He's headed to the Rice Street facility. He has 18 co-defendants here, and we've seen several of these mugshots of his co-defendants coming out. And that's a big question that a lot of people have. Will we finally get a Fulton County mugshot of the former president? Sheriff Pat Labatt says he's going to be treated just like any other person that comes into the jail.
Well, the expectation, and Twitter is abuzz, now known as X, with so many people trending right now talking about that very fact, about seeing a mugshot of former President Trump is sort of what everybody is waiting for to see tonight. And this will become the stuff of campaign badge of honor for the Republicans, those who support Donald Trump in his quest for the White House once again. But that is, one of the major headlines tonight is seeing that mugshot, something despite the other indictments in other states, this will be a first for him.
Absolutely. And the former president, he did negotiate a bond. So that means that he will not be staying the night in jail. He's going to go in, get processed, and then go home. That bond, $200,000. He could either pay that in cash or he could pay a 10% of that. So that'd be $20K to do his processing. Get his
I didn't know that. Did y'all know that? So he's already negotiated a bond. So he got a $200,000 bond. So RICO indictment, no jail time. Jeffrey Young Thug will now remember they kept Sergio Gunner Kitchens and made him capitulate to a statement before they gave him a bond. Right? Kept him 9 months, never did any crime, multi-millionaire entrepreneur. But as a black man and a black black DA filed that RICO, right? Black DA filed that RICO, but she made Sergio. And right now, let me tell you right now, I don't believe in the SNITCH word. I believe that is a racial derogatory term.
Absolutely.
I said
Now
this
we
to
are
my
taking
wife
the
last
Jail
night. She
into
said
the 11
Gunner was on the
live
radio.
tracker. You
She
can
said,
see
you
that
don't think
motorcade
Gunner is the S
moving
word?
on
I
turns
said,
as
no.
they
I said,
expected.
how can a
Police, of course, looks like they're
multi-millionaire
cruising on
be an
through,
S
not
word? And my wife,
bad
highly
traffic,
intelligent,
no
she's not
traffic
black. She looked
for the
back at
former
me
president,
and
who
she
it
said,
looks like he's going
because
to
she thought
be
I was going to say
getting to
something
the Fulton
different.
County
She
Jail
said,
in no time. But when
I
he does
agree.
get there,
I
I'll
said,
tell you what, we have seen
he was a
images since early this
multi-millionaire
morning of
rapper
just
and an
tons,
entrepreneur
hundreds
owning his
and
own
hundreds of
music,
people,
right? How
supporters,
can that person
opponents
still be
gathering
subscribed
at
to
the
such a
jail,
negative,
media, as well as some
derogatory,
residents that live
ethnic
around
term?
there that
It's an
have had
ethnic
limited issues
slur.
coming in and out. But
I'm not
people
even
are
going to use it
from
on my
different Atlanta,
podcast.
they've driven
I
from
believe it's an
Florida, some people
ethnic
have
slur.
probably flown
What
in
level does a
to
black man have to
be
reach
there and either
before
show their
someone like an
support or
academics
protest
or a fresh
the
and
former
fit, these
president going on
non-ADOS,
jail.
these
So right here on the
non-FBA,
interstate, as
can
you
subscribe
make your way
these type of
northbound
negative ethnic slurs
toward
to us?
downtown
Why does
Atlanta,
Gunner
traffic
telling
will
the
begin
truth
to pick up
about an
for us.
interaction with a
Generally,
police
it does.
officer
If we can
as a
generalize Atlanta
multi-millionaire
traffic, which
American
is probably
citizen?
not a very
How
good
does that
thing
reach
to
the
do,
level
certainly
of
on a Thursday night, but
this
so far it
derogatory
has been
term?
clear
That's why
sailing.
he's selling records
This
still,
will
right?
begin to
Jeffrey didn't get no
probably
bond.
log jam
President
a
Trump,
little bit here as he
41
gets
counts,
closer
100 and
to the
some
downtown
charges,
area in the former turn
$200,000 bond. He won't
Absolutely.
spend one night
And
in
I
jail.
mean, like I said, we're
In the
taking
same
an
county.
aerial look
Now
right
keep
here.
in mind.
This
Now
is
keep
a
in mind.
historic moment for
In
the
this
city of
same
Atlanta.
county,
And
I just
people
read to
using
you
this word
this week
unprecedented.
that
This is now the fourth
the
criminal
person
indictment, but it is
who murdered
unprecedented. And
King
this is
Von,
probably, you know,
all the charges dropped.
biggest
Fani
boom
Willis just dropped all the
Fulton County
charges.
Jail that we're going to see a former
And
president going
I said, is she trying to make
King
room to try this
George's,
case?
you know,
Now, there's
active citizen
19
from
people
Atlanta that
being
would go
charged in
got
this
in a little bit
RICO.
of trouble and
In
have
the
to look.
initial
But
YSL
it's
RICO,
going to be
there
very
was 30
interesting to
people.
see what
Now,
comes
I
down
gave you the
as the
Atlanta
sitting
Public
president gets to the
Schools
answer.
RICO
Well, the
that
context
Fani
of
Willis
this
was the
is
engineer.
very dramatic. We're
35
talking
black
about
women charged and convicted in that
2024
RICO
election
case.
season right around the corner,
So she
and
likes to
you're
charge
wondering what
big
sort of
RICO cases,
implications this will have
overreaching
for
and
the eventual
overstretching her
Republican
bounds
nominee.
of
Last night
power
from
and
Milwaukee, we
limitations,
saw
right?
those who are going
35
to be the
black
Republican
female
nominee,
teachers,
and they
Atlanta Public
are, if you
Schools,
believe
most
polling right
expensive
now,
RICO
they
case
are
ever
a
in
long
Atlanta
way behind
history,
Mr.
right?
Trump, as he
35
is the front
black
runner
men
to
charged with the
become the
YSL
Republican
RICO.
nominee
She
in
wanted to take them all
2024.
to
But, you
court.
know,
Everybody got
we
split
talked
up.
about
Now,
this a
we
couple of
just
minutes
heard
before we
today
went on the air.
that
We're not that
President
far away
Trump
from
got a
Iowa,
bond for
and you've
200,000,
got these
and one of the
indictments
19
looming.
co-conspirators
You have
has
this
already broken off,
arrest.
ladies and gentlemen.
What does this look like?
And
Governor
he's
Kemp
asking for a
yesterday on a
speedy
podcast
trial,
from
which
Miami
he's
was
entitled to,
asked
and he wants
about
to go to
that
court in October,
specifically,
not in March, but
about Donald
October.
Trump
That
way out in
means,
front
ladies
right
and
now,
gentlemen,
and
her
it's governor
dream
made an
of trying
interesting
all
correlation
19
that I
people
think a lot of
together
us here in
is
Atlanta will
already
understand.
dead, just like
He
with
said
the
the number is
YSL RICO,
28 to
just
3.
like with the APS RICO. It's
Invoking the
all
Falcons'
all
storied collapse
nothingness.
in the Super
So
Bowl,
19 people
where they
will
were
not,
up
and I'm
late in the
telling you
third
that
quarter,
first on the
28 to
Perfect Timing
3, and of
podcast.
course
There will not
lost
be a
that Super
19
Bowl
person
to the New
RICO
England
because one
Patriots, who were
person
able to
has
come back.
already
So
broken
there's a
off
sports
and
correlation there politically that there's a long way
well
to go
capitulate to
before
the DA
a
and give a
GOP nominee
statement.
is picked
But
next
that
summer.
means
But
we
this is
now
just
at
one
18
of the
people
steps on
RICO.
the ladder
And how many
to
people
trying
ended
to
up? Does
understand
anybody
how
know
this
out of
all
the 35
plays,
black
not
men
only in the
charged,
court
how
system,
many
which we
people are
have
going to go to the final
covered
RICO
in
with,
great
with,
detail
with
and will
Jeffrey?
continue to do
Because
so,
Gunner's
and the
already
political
out.
ramifications. Certainly
7
we
or 8
saw
people
the
to
House of
15-year
Representatives
probation.
today,
So there will
Republicans
not be
led
35
by
people going to a
Congressman
RICO case
in
with Jeffrey.
Ohio,
Just to let
that
you
they
know
are going to investigate
how she
District Attorney
fights
Fani
these
Willis
cases
over
and what she's
all
done in
of
the past.
this that
Let's see
has
what's going on.
transpired. So
Trump is in the car right there,
it is.
so I'm
And
talking
the
my
other
shit.
issue, though, that's very hard to gauge right now is what it's going to mean for voters and how they will perceive this and how they will look at this as it continues to play out in the months ahead. But again, the polling right now is showing that every time Mr. Trump gets indicted or finds himself in these circumstances, his numbers seem to rise.
And speaking of that GOP debate last night, I mean, there was a point in time you had 8 folks on the stage. Donald Donald Trump was not there. If you look on the internet, some people are saying that he even won the debate by not being there. There was a point, though, where they asked the panelists, okay, raise your hand if you would still vote for Mr. Trump if he was convicted, but he's the Republican nominee. And all but Chris Christie, who kind of raised his hand and went like that, and Asa Hutchinson did not raise their hand. And the rest of them did and said, you know what, we're going to vote for him. And when you look at the polling, you talk to the voters on the ground. I mean, we've spoken to several people, our reporters out there at the jail right now, that echo Mr. Trump's sentiments that he posts on social media, that this is an attack, this is a hunt, this is political, that they're just trying to do this to keep me out of the White House. And a lot of his supporters feel that way. And I actually spoke to a conservative radio show host here, Shelley Winter, and I asked him, I said, hey, why do people continue to support Mr. Trump, even though, it seems like he's in a lot of legal trouble? And he said, well, they look at Mr. Trump as a man who's fighting for them. And so when he's under attack, they feel like they are under attack. And he says that those numbers show in the polls, and he is by far the front runner here. And when we're talking about this investigation, you're talking about a more than 2-year investigation into this case. We had a special purpose grand jury that lasted for about 8 months. 75 people were interviewed there. It was a special purpose grand jury, so they did not have the power to indict. That's why we had another grand jury that met. They did have the power to indict, and we sure enough saw an indictment come down last Monday. Many of you were right here with us at 11 Alive as we broke that late last Monday evening. And so now we are over a week away. We are less than 24 hours away. It's Thursday, right? Yeah, less than 24 hours away from the Friday at noon deadline, tomorrow at noon deadline that DA Fani Willis set for all of the 19 co-defendants to turn themselves in at the Fulton County Jail. And throughout the week, we've seen several people post bond. We've seen several people surrender. And there are still some folks who have not surrendered, but they must do it by tomorrow at noon.
We're coming up on 7:30. It is almost 7:28 right now. If you're just joining us, former President Trump landed at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport a little over 20 minutes ago. He then deplaned. We were able to see him as he walked down the staircase from the plane to the SUVs. That took about a minute. He paused briefly, gave a double thumbs up. In his familiar blue suit, white shirt, and red tie. He then got into the SUV, and the motorcade began its journey into Atlanta traffic, which is always slammed at this time of night, but for that matter, it's slammed all the time. But nonetheless, it has gone swimmingly right now. I mean, they have not had any stops whatsoever, and now have made their way from the interstate, making their way toward Rice Street and the Fulton County Jail on Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard is the route they were going to go. We speculated a little bit earlier that there was maybe 2 routes they could go. They could take North Avenue, but again, the Falcons are at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight, and certainly you don't want to make that traffic scene any more problematic than it already is. But so far, so good, and Mr. Trump expected to be arrested around 7:30. It looks like his schedule is
a little off. There's a little bit of rain.
Off by a couple of minutes, but not too far.
A little bit of rain before that takeoff. So right now we want to head to our Molly Oak, who's on the ground, and she might have a view of this motorcade coming through any second. Now, Molly, can you paint a picture for us? What are you seeing right now?
Just for some perspective, we're only about a mile from the jail. I want to step outside just because consistently over the last couple of minutes, we have seen police, Georgia State Patrol, cruising by for the past about 15, 20 minutes. This intersection has been blocked off. We are at Donald Lee Hallowell and Joseph E. Lowry. Now, we are guessing with what block off we are seeing right now. Hold on, we have some more of the motorcade coming through. We are assuming that with this block off that we are seeing that they will head down Joseph E. Lowry and then turn on Jefferson toward the jail. Now, when I say agencies are out here, I mean Fulton County, Atlanta, DeKalb County, Clayton County, even MARTA Police we have seen playing a role with also Atlanta Police.
Metro Atlanta.
These severe now closing in.
We could be talking about damaging winds, hail, and
How you can plan ahead by knowing what's coming overhead.
heavy storms are rolling in.
Expect pop-up thunderstorms and rain.
Look like they pushing through some media. That's all right though. So last night, as y'all just heard, Trump didn't go to the debate. Instead of going to the debate, Trump did an interview with Tucker. What's up, everybody? Fair use is in full effect. Let's do our little fair use. Thank you for tuning into the Perp Time podcast with the blast on your ass. Trump being surrendering today, $200,000 bail. Everything today is protected by fair use, by the statute you see on your screen. And nothing is meant to be bullying, maligning, insulting in any way. Thank you for tuning in. So Trump on the way to get a ring. And we doing us a quick little tap in real quick. Let me show you. I want to show you a couple things. I got a couple clips here we're going to go over real quick. How's everybody doing in that podcast land, man? Seen a couple of the fellas come through, man. Thank you to everybody who came through. Let's do a breakdown. Y'all want to do a breakdown? We're going to do, I got a couple things we could look at. Got a couple things we could look at. Let's go here.
George, good morning to you. You heard the former president say so himself on social media. He's coming here this afternoon to proudly be arrested. This morning, former President Trump is getting ready to surrender. The fourth time this year he's turning himself in to face criminal charges. Sheriff's deputies are waiting to record his height and weight, fingerprint him, and take his mugshot before he's released on a $200,000 bond. The former president skipping the first GOP primary debate, telling Tucker Carlson overnight his lead over his Republican rivals helps him cope with all the criminal charges he faces.
I think it's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it. The people see it's a fraud.
Ahead of Trump's surrender, security is tight, though law enforcement officials say they're tracking no specific threats. Supporters have issued calls to rally, but prior Trump court appearances have drawn sparse crowds of protesters. Lawyers accused of conspiring with Trump to try to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia have already turned themselves in. Rudy Giuliani, photographed like the many suspects he had arrested as a prosecutor.
This is an attack on the American people.
Giuliani was released on a $150,000 bond, then spotted walking into a second chance bail bonds near the jail.
I'm being prosecuted for defending an American citizen who I do as a lawyer.
Prosecutors say Giuliani was more than that, accusing him of peddling lies about election fraud and falsely accusing poll workers of stealing votes. Sidney Powell, who pushed the conspiracy theory about voting machines she said were controlled by Venezuela, and Jenna Ellis, who falsely claimed ballots were manipulated.
You know what's funny is I'm doing my research today.
Too.
I found an email from Fani Willis. It was a tweet from Fani Willis during the election, and she was doing, as a lawyer, basically what she's indicting Rudy Giuliani of. She said, we need lawyers to watch every vote that's counted. We want lawyers to watch every vote that's counted. Atlanta give an honest account. This was Fani Willis in 2020 on the night of the election. That was her tweet. Now she's including Rudy Giuliani. And what also I found in my research that's funny is that you hear about 19 people being indicted. You ask, who are the people being indicted? They're all lawyers. This is when they say precedent meaning in law, things that are being done for the first time that basically establish a precedent or establish a modus operandi going forward of how you do things. And if there is no precedent, then it's very difficult to get something done, which is why I believe it's being done by Fani Willis.
In addition to Trump, 9 more criminal defendants in this sweeping indictment still need to turn themselves in here. Mark Meadows, Trump's former
I have no idea what's going on with the video, but
chief of staff has been trying to get out of it, asking a federal judge to immediately move his case into federal court. The judge did not immediately rule on that, but he did say Meadows could not avoid surrendering. So just like all the other defendants, George, he needs to show up here by noon on Friday. George.
Okay, Aaron, thanks.
Actually, that's not
Trump is going to surrender to.
What actually happened is that old boy negotiated, like I said, and he challenged Fani Willis' ability to provide a speedy trial. Fani Willis was saying, I want to go to trial by March. He said, I'm entitled to a speedy trial, like I said earlier, and he got a trial date set for October. So there's already been one person broken off from the 19-person indictment. These are lawyers, so they gonna fight Fani Willis. This is not Young Thug. This is not Gunna, Sergio Kitchens. This is Rudy Giuliani, the crafter of the RICO law, which is very different than the Georgia RICO law. Let's keep going. Let's break down. Well, perfect. What is the charge? What is the Georgia RICO law? And could you give us to us? Could you get out? Yeah, I'll give it to you, man. I'll give it to you, man. That's what I do. It's my job. It's my job, man. That bothers you. I do my job, man. We go do our job. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen.
Is full. It is hefty, and 11 Alive has been poring over the details ever since it dropped just before 9 o'clock last night. Investigative reporter Zach Merchant breaking down the key parts and answering some big questions for us.
Well, Jeff, this is it. This is just a part of the nearly 100-page indictment accusing former President Donald Trump and others of violating the law in their efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Here's what you need to know.
These are ridiculous indictments.
Former President Donald Trump is the highest profile defendant named in the indictment announced late last night by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis.
A Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment.
He faces 13 charges, including 3 counts of solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer. The indictment alleges at least one of those acts of solicitation happened during the January 2021 phone call between then-President Donald Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, where Mr. Trump can be heard discussing finding votes.
Look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
The indictment also accuses the former president of
That's the crime, everybody. Then the media is trying to frame it. Now, if you're a listener of the Perfect Timing Pod, now think about this, y'all. We at the beginning of this. This is like a lot of different things when you're an investigator and you're doing content. This is very exciting because you guys have been with me from the beginning, and I've laid down a foundation for you that we're going to be have a unique perspective on this case. Now, what you're seeing the media do is paint a narrative. We've discussed narratives. Now, the other thing that we've discussed is how she fights the RICO case. In the RICO case against Atlanta Public Schools, there was no crime. So what the teachers did in the Atlanta Public School was wrong, but it wasn't illegal, which is why she used the RICO. Now, again, with Young Thug, he did not commit a crime, which is why she used the RICO. Again, with Donald Trump has not committed an actual crime. What she argued in the Atlanta Public School case is that you all have to be working in concert to do something together, right? And then the RICO will say that what they were working together to do was wrong. And the criminal charge is the RICO charge. But in the Atlanta Public Schools case, the teachers had committed no crime. There was no crime on the books. Teachers get in trouble all the time for cheating. They got to go through counseling. They get their teaching credentials removed. But you've never heard of a teacher going to prison or facing criminal charges. You know, we got different courts. You have a misdemeanor court. You have a felony court. You've never heard of a teacher. These were 34 Black women who were charged with a RICO and ended up with jail time, some of them 7 to 20 years. And there's no crime on the books for teachers cheating. Similar with all of her RICO cases, there are no crimes. If you analyze it, if you're a member of the Perfect Timing Podcast and you've been listening to the way Fani Willis and other lawyers talk about the way she does her RICO, over 100 charges. You know what else is true about 19 defendants, 30 defendants, 35 women, mother defendants in Atlanta Public Schools? The Atlanta Public Schools RICO was the most expensive trial ever in Georgia history. Not in Atlanta, but ever. How much is it going to cost for this YSL case with 30 people with no crime? No one has been charged in the murder and death of Jeffrey's mother's children. No one's been charged with that. That case is gone. No one talks about that. But he was arrested by taking care of the kids. There's no crime in that case. There's no crime in the Trump case, which is why you might ask, why is she using a RICO? Why can't she just charge him if he broke the law and charge him with the law he broke and say you committed a crime for breaking this law? Just like the teachers, he did not break a specific law that is written on the crime books. So we use a RICO. We use a RICO. Let's keep listening. Shout out to my sister Tracy in the chat.
Making unlawful false statements during that conversation when he claimed that thousands of dead people voted in the 2020 presidential election.
The other thing, dead people. So dead people voted. And I think the number is in the close to 5,000 people.
Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger responded to that claim on the call moments later.
The actual number were two.
So he was off on the number. I was just about to interject because we know for a fact that dead people do vote. They actually have procedures in place because dead people have voted multiple times in multiple states. So I'm so glad they admitted that they actually had 2 dead people vote. Now, if you know anything about voting, how did they dwindle down out of millions of votes and find those 2? I have no idea, but we have to believe that they found 2 dead people. So for the president to estimate and make a high estimation, I have no problem with him making a, and again, there is no crime because he is not lying. Dead people did vote. So that is not a crime either, which is again why you have to use the RICO and a Georgia state RICO, not federal RICO. What I've said to you before is none of this measures up to the level of federal RICO charges because they would have filed federal RICO charges. But in Georgia, the bar is a lot lower for RICO and a lot broader, in which the case can include non-criminal, non-violent acts to get a RICO charge. They never told us that with the Atlanta Public Schools, and they never told you that with the YSL RICO, which is all engineered by Fani Willis. But in the Georgia state RICO is extremely broad. You ain't got to hurt nobody. You ain't got to sell no drugs. It's not like the RICO you familiar with. It's very, very broad and very different.
People that were dead that voted.
Now, it's important to note Mr. Trump maintains his innocence in all of the cases he is currently facing. It's also important to remember the former president is not the only defendant named in this indictment. Coming up at 6, we'll tell you what you need to know about some of the other key defendants.
All right. 100-page indictment. 100-page indictment. All right, look like Trump just showed up to the jailhouse. Let's see what he's talking about. Trump just showed up to the jailhouse live. He got $200,000 bond. He just showed up to Fulton County. This is so important. Again, something else, more foundational aspect. Let's go to. As
far as your proximity goes to Joe Ripley, are you at a different vantage point than where he is? Are you on the other side of the building?
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the building, so I'm on Rice Street. So he's not going to come through here. There's a lot of protesters here. This is where the media crush is. He's on the other side, probably being taken into the Sally Port. I'm trying to look at the video at the same time that you guys are looking at it as well. But the one thing I wanted to point out here, and that is this. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been here for the past hour, and she was out here speaking with those who support her and those who support the former president as well. And she put out on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, a mugshot of herself. This is something that she produced, showing that she is in, right standing with the former president, and she is standing by him as well. Now, I have Rebecca Lindstrom. We have my colleague here to talk a little bit more about the process. So he's in there right now. He's being processed. What can we expect to see?
Well, one of the things that I'm doing right now is actually timing how long this process takes for him. We know that we've been told from other people, that have had to go through the traditional process that this can take hours, days. But for those who have had a pre-negotiated surrender, they've been in and out in about an hour. So we're curious to see really if that process is even further expedited for the former president. So we're going to time it. We're going to see exactly what he is able to accomplish and in what period of time. What's interesting, though, is, we've been talking a lot about the differences of this case and other cases that have occurred earlier in the year when he has surrendered. And we know that in April, when he surrendered in New York, that community got rid of bail for non-violent offenses. So there was no bail in that case. And then when he surrendered in June in Miami as well as in DC, in those cases, he was allowed to leave with a signature bond. So essentially, signing a piece of paper saying, I promise I will return when I am needed to appear at court hearings. This is the only case of those 4 this year where he is being expected to pay that $200,000 bail. I mean, that's what's been set. And it is the only case that we've been told where they're expecting to take his photograph, the infamous mugshot. And so in that way, this case has already set itself as being very different than the other 3 indictments that we've seen earlier this year.
Absolutely. So let's look at your timer right now. He's been in there for 8 minutes, 15 seconds. And I would suppose that the Secret Service, they don't want to waste any time. And Joe Ripley talked about this. It's all about keeping the president safe, or the former president safe. I don't care if it's former President Barack Obama, former President Jimmy Carter, or even
same rules, right?
Yeah, the Secret Service, their mission is to get him in there and get him out safely and get him on to his next agenda. So when you look at this, 8 minutes so far, a little bit more than 8 minutes. I would think that he will be out here shortly. What do you think will happen after that? I mean, is it over for him as far as the process as he's waiting for the next step?
So we do know that in
So
some
did
cases,
you hear that, you guys? That's a good point to bring up. Let's take a break. So he just mentioned the Secret Service, right? So as an ex-president, and you heard about RFK asking for Secret Service during the campaign and Biden turning him down. But when you're president and you're ex-president, you get Secret Service to protect you because it's about the country and the symbol that you represent. It's more than an actual office, and we haven't gotten into that. People don't take civics classes anymore, but the presidency represents more than what is being treated like today by Fani Willis in the district attorney's office. What you just heard is that no one else has required monetary bond. They gave Rudy Giuliani $150,000. Where's Rudy Giuliani going? He's an iconic member of American memorabilia. He's a walking piece of Americana. He can't leave America. He's not going to not show up to court. Same thing with the president, who is being protected by the Secret Service. You know where he is 24/7. There's no need to go through this political theater, right? I want to have an honest debate, conservatives, Dems, liberals, about people. See, you got to break down about what this means for America. An honest debate about what this means for America. Because what I was about to say before I interrupted myself is it makes me think about the statement of we're trained Marxists. And what does this look like to you? And how does this bow as we are in the brink of a global conflict? We're fully enthralled in a true conflict with one of our biggest adversaries by supporting one of their adversaries, right? This is not a joke. We're involved with that right now. We're involved with a global decline, not just a decline in America, not just Starbucks, not just Walgreens, but a global decline, right, in demographics and production, in human production, right? We're going through these things, a global shift, a paradigm shift when it comes to the currency and Web 3.0, communications, transportation. All of this is happening right now, right? And now you also have this as we're supposedly the global leaders, right? The global example going into 2030 and what you've heard about the next paradigm in 2030. What does this look like to you, even if you're a Democrat, even if you hate Trump? I want to hear honestly, do you think this is good for America? Or is it more of the BLM rhetoric where we actually have the brainchild of trained Marxists morphing in front of us and nobody actually talking about BLM language, the sentiment put out by now, which took over the country, the rainbow sentiment that was coupled along with BLM, who also was these trained Marxists who had a political ideology the whole time, actually donated money to the Democratic platform and benefited from the Democratic platform, which is it an American platform anymore? I don't know. I mean, truly, I don't know, because if there's no crime federally, think about this. If there's no crime federally, and the lawyers have waited, this Donald Trump, Georgia RICO indictment does not reach the level of a federal indictment. So my question is, if this does not reach the level of a federal indictment, why indict an ex-president of the United States as somebody so polarizing? Why indict them with a RICO during such a time? During such a trans, I think it's emblematic of what's going on right now. It has to do with what America is and what America is to come. We have to be honest about that, because I mean, come on, what this is precedent. It's never happened before. Not president, but precedent where it's never happened before. It doesn't meet the level of a federal RICO, so we're going to indict an ex-president who's running for president right now, actually has the biggest margin of lead, and we're going to indict him on a state level. During a conflict with Russia, our ex-major adversary from the Cold War. In that conflict, we just have seen drones and pipelines blown up. It's getting more serious by the day. Gas is going up. We're not talking about how much gas is. You see how they're distracting you? I don't know about you, but I'm having trouble paying for gas this week. I'm having trouble paying for gas this week. Why is Georgia, as a state, indicting President Trump? What benefit is it to the overall country? It may benefit Fani Willis in her career. Yay for black women. Yay for Fani Willis, if it benefits her in her career. But what does it do for the country? What does it do for her nephews? For her, you know what I'm saying? For the black children in the Willis family. How does that look and bode for America going forward? That we would indict a president for charges on RICO. We would indict a president on RICO, a mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, who engineered RICO, and we would indict these men, right, for crimes that don't exist and don't reach the level of a federal indictment. You got to keep that in mind. And you got to ask yourself, you know what, that kind of makes sense. I never thought about it from that perspective. I don't like Donald Trump. I like Fani Willis, so I thought, go ahead, do your thing, baby girl. I never thought about the fact that you now let me know that these charges that she put forth would not merit a federal indictment, and that you have very loosely, broadly written RICO statutes in the state of Georgia and all the states in which they've brought these charges. But this is the only RICO charge.
Another eyeball looking this way too, just to make sure everyone is safe. But it appears that there's a confrontation between those who are supporting Trump and those who are opposed to him. And this confrontation is between, it's called Blacks for Trump. They are, okay, all right, let's back up a little bit. We're just learning now that he has been released. So I'm going to toss it back to you guys as we try to figure out what's happening here with these protests.
All right, Ron, thank you.
Just to let you know, 16 minutes he was in. in
All
16
right.
minutes, according to Rebecca.
Ron, thank you so much. We're taking a live look again at the front of the Fulton County Jail. What we do know is that former President Trump is
Thank
the
you, Tracy.
only
My
defendant in this
audio
case to use that
was
Jefferson
messed
Street
up. Thank
entrance.
you
That's
for
what
that,
you're
'cause,
looking
you
at
know,
right now. It is more
somebody don't
secure.
say
As you
nothing.
can see, there's less people.
It'll
Everyone else,
stay
we're told,
bad.
had to use the Rice Street entrance. So you are looking at that
They out there
Jefferson Street
functioning out there,
entrance
y'all.
right there. And we do
Y'all hear that?
apologize.
They
Looks like
is,
the
and them is
there
mostly
are a lot
black
of people
people
on
in
the
Atlanta
ground.
right
Might have
now. You
heard
got black
some
people on
colorful
both
words
sides.
that
They
Ron
think our
explained
culture is a
a little
monolith.
earlier. So we
I,
do
I, I
apologize
like
for
that. You know what I'm saying?
and we
Shout
are
out to
taking
everybody in the
justice.
chat,
But I do want
despite
to let
where
you
you
know
come
that while
down,
we
man.
were looking at him,
They think
at
our
Ron
culture
and what was
is
going
a
on, we did learn
monolith,
that
and
the former
everybody
president
feels the
has
same
now
way.
been booked.
Everybody don't
He
feel the
is
same
about
way
to
about
exit the jail,
everything.
and
So I like that we have both sides out there representing Democrat, liberal, Republican, conservative, and you know, people understand the issue. That's all I want. I just want an intelligent electorate. That's what America is about, a strong, intelligent electorate. It's not about whether or not I say this is right or wrong, or well, let's see what he's talking about. It's not about whether or not I think this is right or wrong. It's about informed information, man. I believe that's what a journalist in the podcast, you know, I do my jokes and, you know, my opinion might slip out, but it's about information and informing and giving people a unique perspective with the wisdom that you bring on it. You know what I'm saying? That's why I believe like rappers have podcasts about rap, because it's not only that they're old rappers, but they have a unique intelligence about that field. You know what I'm saying? So that's my goal.
Down to Lowry Boulevard as they try to secure the perimeter here around the Fulton County Jail. Former President Trump took a couple-hour flight from the New York. You see the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, deputies, Georgia State Patrol,
I guess he
Atlanta
leaving.
Police, and now the black SUVs, which we
Look like he
believe
leaving.
former President Trump is in one of. And we see a couple of more vehicles, a little more slowly. I guess those motorcycles going ahead to clear the way, making sure traffic is clear. So the former president, has a smooth ride back.
a hunt. This is political, that they're just
Shit.
trying to do this to keep me out of the White House. And a lot of his supporters feel that way. And I actually spoke to a conservative radio show host here.
Shit.
In a way, the sheriff was right. He would be treated the same as anyone else coming into the jail. But, you know, he is a former president, so he has a Secret Service. He has a motorcade. And so we did see a little bit of different treatment, but in and out, less than 17 minutes. And now you are taking a live look from our 11 Alive Sky Tracker as that motorcade heads back to Hartsfield Jackson. And if you all are just joining us, we want to just give you an update on what we've seen over the last couple of hours. Just before 5 o'clock, we saw former President Trump's plane take off from Newark, New Jersey. He landed in Atlanta around just after 7 o'clock. He walked off the plane, went straight to a black SUV. He did not give any remarks. And then that motorcade came down to the Fulton County Jail. He was brought into the jail, booked and released in under 17 minutes. So you are caught up right now. This is what we're seeing. It looks like a little bit, we're trying to get a better view for you there from our 11 Alive Sky Tracker, a little bit of movement on his counsel. We saw that this morning he actually replaced one of his lawyers, Drew Findling, no longer representing him, and he has been replaced by Steve Sadow.
All right, so we have been watching this for just about an hour now. His plane landed a little after 7 o'clock this evening. And, you know, I think we have been speculating about how long he would be on the ground in Atlanta before he was back inside that 757 on his way back to the Northeast. And it looks as though he may be.
So we already got Trump 15 minutes, man. 15 minutes. That's all you get, man. He in and out, man. He in and out, man. 15 minutes. That's all you gonna get, man. He in and out. So he didn't land. It took him 2 hours to get here. He came on that big Trump thing. You gonna see him leave on that big Trump thing. I know it. Yeah, he headed back. It didn't take him no time to get to the airport. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they were talking about a football game, but he in and out, man, just like a bandit in the thief of the night, man. Came in late night on that Trump thing and he didn't post a bond. Now he headed back to the plane, man. Secret Service. So as we was dealing with the technical difficulties, Secret Service, I was about to go into the Secret Service, man. So the Secret Service, man. You got Secret Service, right? How does that work on someone like, I mean, like the Secret Service is like, he said they don't want him in the jail. So how does that work? How does that work, man? If he gets incarcerated, we've never done that before. So we gotta probably build a jail like El Chapo, right? Is that what we do now? Is it still America if we start building jails for our presidents? You know what I'm saying? We got to really think about this. You know what I'm saying? Is it still America? What is it at that point? Because he can't go to a regular jail because he's going to have to be protected by the Secret Service. And then, okay. So if he gets convicted, does he lose his presidential status? Does he lose the Secret Service? Is now Democrats and Democratic shields going to want to treat him like a regular person and be like, this is how much we dislike Donald Trump, and Donald Trump getting back on the plane. I want to show you guys something else I seen real quick. So have y'all heard about Kevin Costner? Kevin Costner divorced. When I was doing my research, I came across Kevin Costner divorce, right? And the headline was Kevin Costner increased his wealth 4 times, and he went from 100 million to 400 million in the course of their marriage. He's getting a divorce from this beautiful blonde young lady right here. Shout out to Kevin Costner, man. So he's getting a divorce from this beautiful blonde young lady right here. And the thing is, she doesn't want to honor up to the prenup. It's some unique things in the prenup where it is stated that she had 30 days to file and to get herself up out that house. $145 million Santa Monica property that ain't her house no more, right? Because she want to leave. And it says any house that belonged to me, you got 30 days to vacate. And she ain't left the house, but she's supposed to leave the house. And right now, I told you about Holly Berry, right? I told you about Holly Berry paying $8,000, and we did the math. And because in the beginning it was $16,000 a month, right? So we did the math on how much money that was per year and what the kids could invest. Alonzo Hall came through. Alonzo, I was talking good about you the other day when I was talking about Holly Berry paying $8,000. We're really Holly Berry paying $16,000 a month for a couple years, and now finally getting it knocked down to $8,000 a month. And I talked about what if she would have bought one of the financial properties that you sell and purchased that for the child versus paying her ex-husband child support. What if she put the $16,000 into one of the financial products that Alonzo Hall and his team sell? And what would that mean after just a couple years? At first, Alonzo, when I was talking about, I said, because it's been 10 years, right? What would she have in 10 years? But then I remember when you gave us that lesson that after a certain amount of time, especially paying that much, she probably would buy multiple policies, right? But especially paying that much a month, what Alonzo taught us is that after a while, these things begin to pay you back. Once you get fully vested and you pay it all the way up, it begins to pay you back. Not only can you use it as credit and borrow against it, but it begins to pay you back. So this little girl, instead of having just $16,000 a month going to thin air and nothingness, she could have had this investment portfolio, right? Not only building and growing, but paying dividends. And you know why it exists? Because it's not enough holly berries. It's not enough holly berries. It's not enough holly berries. It's not enough women being abused by these laws and stupidity. And Holly Berry, the way she got it reduced from 16 to 8,000, and she said this is slavery, it's stupid. She probably brought up the fact of how she could have invested this money for her daughter. But what I wanted to show you is, check this out. He paying, so 8,000, 16,000, that's a lot of money, right? Kevin Costner paying 129,000 a month in temporary child support. That's crazy. That's crazy. And he got a prenup. $129,000 in child support, and he got a prenup. That's crazy. And she won't get out the house, and she don't want to honor the prenup.
That states if Christina Baumgartner filed for divorce, she must immediately leave any of the family's homes. Now, at this point, it's alleged that she is refusing to do so. So the question is, if there's a prenup that says she has to do it and she doesn't do it, what does Kevin Costner have to do? So in California, he's going to have to go into court and prove that the prenup is valid. Once he proves the prenup is valid, he can act on it, but he's going to have to go into court and prove that that is a valid prenup before he can take any other actions. In other news out of the Kevin Costner divorce,
So that's just. Let's see another one.
All right. Kevin Costner's wife is a vulture. That guy carried that woman for years. She lived a life of convenience, never having to pay a bill, never having to scrub a toilet, wash a sink, make a bed, take care of a kid, put a kid to bed. Everything was taken care of. Nannies, maids, chefs. And you know what? The relationship's come to its end. She didn't contribute to him at all. Never contributed to his career, never contributed to anything. She was just essentially a house guest. He doesn't owe her anything. And the fact that she's asking for things is fucking disgusting. All right? There's a big difference between a woman that helps you grow and a woman that's just a fucking barnacle on the side of the ship. All right. Kevin Costner's wife is a vulture.
A woman that help you grow and a barnacle on the side of the fucking ship.
Kevin Costner divorce is all over the media. The latest I'm hearing is that the Costner prenup had a provision whereby if a divorce was initiated, the wife would have to leave what we call the marital home. These are the provisions that we do see in prenups, that if one person owns the home and the prenup calls it that spouse's separate property, the spouse that doesn't own that separate property has to leave. Based on what I'm hearing, I don't think she's leaving. She's in violation of the prenup. So when a prenup is violated, we call it a breach. She's not going to get arrested. She's not going to go to jail, but there may very well be consequences for her breach. My advice to Kevin Costner, he has plenty of money. Throw a little more money her way. Make this go away. Kevin Costner.
What y'all think? Let's keep going, man.
Kevin Costner's girlfriend won't leave. Kevin's girlfriend is refusing to leave their house after the two are currently going through a divorce. Now, they did have a long-standing pre-existing prenup that detailed that as soon as she filed for divorce, she had 30 days in order to vacate the premises. Now, keep in mind, she filed on May 1st. The model is using her position as leverage in order to make Kevin give her the appropriate amount of money that she feels she is so inclined to have. She's requesting $30,000 per month in child expenses and child support, as well as $10,000 for moving expenses. Keep in mind, she's also the one who decided to file for divorce. Let us know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you guys think that this
In divorce news, so just a little update for y'all in divorce news. Hey, thank y'all for hanging out, man. It's been a good podcast, man. A nice podcast broadcast for that ass. Perfect Time podcast. Trump surrendered live, man. Y'all let me know. We're going to follow this case the whole time. We got the foundation of the Fani Willis office, Atlanta Fulton DA office. And just a quick timeline before we get out of there. A lot of people going to talk about this case, but I don't know how many people going to take you back all the way back in the time. You know what I'm saying? With the timeline, starting with the Atlanta Public Schools case, 35 women indicted, 35 school teachers, 35 black women for a non-crime. Fani Willis was the architect, and those women still to this day, I did a story this week showing that 6 of these people are still facing appeal, and still 6 black women face jail time for that RICO, and she won't back down. She won't get them a pass on that RICO. Again, in that case, is the most expensive case ever in Georgia history. Fani Willis. This the timeline, though. This a trip about it, though. Fani Willis then leaves because I believe that DA who did that case had such a negative backlash because it was 35 women. They ended up fighting to get the women out, 35 black women, and there was a nationwide problem with the bubble test, which is why we went to left Scantron with the Common Core. But only these black women in this black school district were blamed for the cheating of the whole country, right? And all the problems with the Scantron test. So that DA gets put out. Fani Willis leaves. Fani Willis ends up representing the co-founder of the company of which, when she comes back as DA after Me Too, after Stacey Abrams, in this newfound renaissance for black women, the same black woman who they did not like her prosecutorial style because of the broad reaching RICO, how much it costed the state, how liberals, they did not like how she went after the teachers. They did not like have to, yeah, that's right, Tracy. They did not like have to, they did not like how she went after the teachers. So it was a black man who was DA and she was the architect. And so they both left the DA's office. She represents the co-founder of the company that after this renaissance of Me Too and women, and we want black women to be in charge, they bring back Fani Willis after they were upset with the way she prosecuted and spent money. Now she over-prosecuted. This RICO charge was too much. As soon as she gets back, it let you know, well, why did they bring back Fani Willis? If they did not like the way that she prosecuted the RICO last time and how much it cost them, why would they bring her back in her first case be a similar overreaching RICO with 30 co-defendants? That's going to cost Atlanta so much money again. This is the history. This is the timeline. It's the foundation. This is what you need to understand about anybody who want to have and then it's going to be hard to have this conversation with people, but the people really concerned about the nation and the country and the precedent that's being set of a president never being charged with the RICO, in charges that don't measure up to a federal national level of a criminality. But for some reason, think about this. If this district attorney and the federal government understands that these crimes don't measure up to the level of federal crimes, we would prefer it if you just did not charge a president, especially when we're dealing with a Ukraine-Russia conflict, when we just coming off a pandemic, when we got inflation, $5 gas, and the $5 gas is everywhere. It's not just in California. So if I'm the feds, I would say to her, if you have ambitions of working for the feds, of being a federal lawyer, a federal judge on the Supreme Court, we would prefer you don't charge this style of RICO to an ex-president. That's what would make sense to me. But when you look at who is in the White House, then you get, okay, this is who's in charge of the federal government right now. So she's being complimented, patted on the back, when it just don't make sense. It only makes sense to people who believe Tory Lane should get 10 years. The people who believe Tory Lane should be in jail for 10 years for this girl hurting her foot when she got out the car. That's the people who believe in this, charging an ex-president with a RICO doing such traumatic. What's a good word for the times that we're in right now? It just don't make sense. But people are believing the narrative. So that's just a quick timeline. Y'all have a good day, man. Happy podcast. Salute to you, Tracy. Thank you for helping out with the podcast. Thank you for everybody for coming through. Y'all have a good day. We're going to stay watching the case and see how this prosecution goes.